What's up, YouTube? Can you hear me? I'm gonna do some quick checks here on the microphone. Make sure I've got volume. Bear with me while I get the technical parts out of the way. If you can hear me, well, comment something in the chat so I can see it. All right, here we go. Very good. How is everybody? I hope everyone's doing good. Another beautiful Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday out here in East Tennessee. We had a high of 42 degrees today. Some slight drizzle. Perfect setting for Halloween. We got to go to the zoo. Do a little bit of that. And everything that entails. Kind of interesting here. I'm going to do a little house cleaning, a little self-promo before we jump into this. Again, a few things I want to stress is that I've got the going to be doing a video with John Perry. He's the founder, owner, brain, mad scientist behind the RGS product and Greene County Fertilizer line. We're probably going to be doing that in 2 to 3 week time frame, somewhere in there. I'm going to have a video with Jacob from Scooter's Lawn Care coming out, where we're going to talk about the software and business end of things. We're going to do a little bit of business consulting with Peter Shiplove of Permagreen, and just got all kinds of things in the work. So just wanted to plug that. In addition to that, I've got the video with Anuvia coming out. I've been working on it. Still got a little ways to go. And now that we're starting to cool off outside, it's going to be time for more whiteboard videos. I don't know about y'all, but those are my favorite to do. One other thing I'm going to plug, and I'm going to plug my wife. My wife, if y'all don't know, is a hip-hop dancer. She was a hip-hop dancer for actually Chris Blue. If you've ever heard of Chris Blue, who won The Voice, she was part of the crew that was his backup dancer when he performed here in Knoxville. So in the description down below, I'm going to link a video that she did with her dance crew called Southern Soul. And it's a video. I helped record it. She edited everything because she's great at stuff like that, and I'm not. And so anyway, I thought I would be kind and plug her as well. So it is the week of 10/29. This is my favorite time of the year right here. You know, the majority of our grass seed is up, just doing a little bit of touch-up work. And then from this point forward, it is going to be pushing aggressive growth. And so it's my time to get experimental with fertilizers. It's my time to really be able to track on single properties how one product reacts with another product versus just a side-by-side comparison of how one product outperforms or does not outperform against another product. So super excited for this time of year. Telly Coleman, no, I do not dance. I try, but I have to be in rare form in order to really be getting down on some dance. So moving forward, you know, I'm going to be running these fertilizer trials on tall fescue, and you know, this will, the way the fertilizer responds to the fescue is going to help me create an experimental mindset towards approaching Bermuda grass next season as well. So just keep that in mind. Although, you know, I may be working with tall fescue now, this is really going to be the setup. If it performs really well in tall fescue, that is going to meet my that is going to be my requirement for it to pass on to testing it with Bermuda grass. There's not a whole lot I would see fertilizer-wise that would perform really well in Bermuda grass and not so well in fescue. So anyway, this is going to be a very, 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 very fun time of year. What is going on, Lawnscapes of America? Hey to everybody in here. I see all kinds of familiar names. Casey Turner, real quick, wants to know what's your suggestion for that push and grow. Casey Turner, it comes down to soil temperatures. I'm trying to get the last of my urea-based products put out. It's a 2448. It's derived from urea. I'm trying to get all that put out. I've got ammonium sulfate coming in, so I'm excited to be throwing out the ammonium sulfate for the rest of the year. John B., as odd as it sounds, we have not had a frost yet here in Knoxville, and my Bermuda looks awesome. I haven't cut it since September, but it's probably 3.5, 4 inches tall, and it looks phenomenal. So I'm kind of enjoying stepping out in the backyard and just looking at it in all its glory. Still just green as all get out. In fact, my backyard is still more green than my front yard, where my fescue is growing in without irrigation. So it's a slow grow in the front, and it's doing well. Yeah, John, it's definitely dense. I mean, it feels like you're floating when you're walking across it. So I'm super happy with how it's actually doing this time of year. It's not even normal, super abnormal. So I love it. I love it. Tony Tillman, I sure do appreciate that. I sure do appreciate that. To kind of get started with the questions tonight, I got some emails that came in that I kind of wanted to touch on a few things here. So we got Mike out in California. Mike is conducting the ultimate experiment. He is attempting to grow Kentucky bluegrass when he's told it does not work there. He's fertilized it. He used a Scott starter about 2 weeks ago. He's still got temperatures in the mid-80s, and now the baby grass is starting to turn yellow or rusty looking after that application. There's a lot that could be causing that. There's a lot that could be causing yellowing. First and foremost, if you're still getting temperatures that high and you're dealing with Kentucky bluegrass, mid-80s, I'm leaning more towards fertilizer burn, a rusty yellowing color. It also could be disease related. It could be some, where it's beginning to melt out for one reason or another. There could be an issue with the soil that's causing it to discolor like that. There's lots of different things that can contribute to it when you're attempting to grow grass in an area that does not normally tolerate those type growing conditions. So one thing you have to keep in mind, and this goes for anybody that's attempting to do a cool season grass or a warm season grass where it doesn't normally grow, there's going to be more effort in that establishment period. So keep that in mind. Even for the guys further up north that are dealing with Bermuda grass, that establishment period is going to be crucial. There's going to be a whole lot of extra care that has to go into it for the establishment process. And then once it is established, there's going to be a whole lot more going into it. So probably what I would do if I had some yellowing in some Kentucky bluegrass is I would go the fungicide route. And then there was another one I got here, and this was from Kenneth up the road from me. He wanted to know if it was too late to put down a granular grub control considering how cold the temperatures are. And in my opinion right now, if you are doing yard renovation and you are seeing grub worms at the surface actively feeding, then absolutely now is a great time to put down a grub control. With these cooler temperatures, you are probably not seeing grub activity at the surface. So if you're not seeing grub activity at the surface, there's no point in putting down a grub control. Best save your money, wait till the next growing season, and then use a high quality preventative grub product like a Celiprin. A Celiprin is going to be the least have the least environmental impact in terms of negativity. So I recommend using Acelepryn as a preventative next year, and you've got a really large window that you can put it down April all the way up to curative. So my personal opinion, if you were dealing with grubs, you didn't tend to it when you first noticed it, you're not seeing them at the surface anymore, wait till next year, go preventative, use the Acelepryn, call it good, have a successful yard. That's it. That's it. What's up, Charlie Willis? John B., you're out there in coastal South North Carolina. You got the True Cut and 1 3/4 inch. I'd say you got some pretty good looking Bermuda too. Then you've been running it on a True Cut. So one of the things I wanted to talk about too in terms of fertility, now that we're getting cooler, I've been talking to a lot of people about fertilizing in cooler weather. Okay, so to understand which fertilizer to use in cooler weather, you have to, and I'm going at it from the perspective of nitrogen utilization, because obviously the more developed we get our plants in the fall, the better setup we have for those plants to tolerate the summer the next year. So in terms of fertilizer and ambient air temperatures and soil temperatures, as you drop below 55 degrees in soil temperatures, that conversion that takes place, if you use urea as a nitrogen source, urea is going to go through, going to hydrolyze it, and as it goes into solution, it's going to react with urease, and then the byproduct of urease is going to be ammonia and CO2. Okay, the cooler it is outside, the less quickly that urea will react with urease. So it's going to be a slower conversion. And the problem is with that slower conversion, that is going to allow more time for runoff to take place, which is obviously what we don't want. That means that fertilizer that runs off is not going to be available for our plant. Then from that point too, the NH3 that's given off, the ammonia that's given off, is going to be in a gas. And if the plant cannot utilize it fast enough, again, soil temperatures are low, therefore plants are going to utilize it slow, you're going to lose a lot of that to the environment. So there's a couple ways around this. Either you can run higher rates of nitrogen in the form of urea, or probably the better thing to do is to use an ammonical nitrogen source, ammonium sulfate. So that way when you apply it and it gets watered in, it goes into solution, you run it at a reduced rate, whereas you may run a full pound of urea, you may run 1.5 pounds of granular urea right now. You can back that down to 1 pound or 3/4 pound of ammonium sulfate. It's all going to be immediately available to the plant. The plant's going to utilize what it's going to utilize, and then, of course, you're going to lose the rest. But by dropping your rate, hopefully, you'll maximize the amount of utilization. If you apply it with a carbon source, hopefully that carbon source will tie up that ammonia that's given off in the form of a gas and help it stay around in the soil longer. So keep that in mind. The cooler the soil temperatures are, the more important it is to pay attention to your actual nitrogen sources. Bert says, what's it? Paul scored a couple of offensive touchdowns yesterday. Step in the right direction. Yeah, we did score a couple of offensive touchdowns, and we could not convert but 9 points off of 4 turnovers, and hence we lost the game. And that's why our head coach is on the chopping block. I hate to talk bad about everything that's going on here in Knoxville football world, in front of the world, but it's been brutal being a fan this year. It makes me sick to my stomach. So I think everybody in East Tennessee is ready for a change in one form or another, whether that's a new coach or whatever. It's time for a change. I watched your vid on 3 ways yesterday. Very helpful. One question: do you use surfactant or seed oil or whatever when you put triclopyr in a 3-way amine. When I put triclopyr in a 3-way amine, usually I will use a surfactant unless temperatures are high enough. If it's going to be 55, 60, 65, 70 degrees outside, no, I will not use a surfactant. But if ambient air temperatures are less than 55, yes, I go ahead and use a surfactant instead of a seed oil. I don't particularly care to run seed oils with ester-based formulations because you're going to get the penetration power from the ester and you'll get the penetration power from the seed oil, and you're setting yourself up for turf injury. So there you go. There you go. Go Eagles, he said. I have a good friend in Memphis that said go Eagles. That is a big Eagles fan. So I will I'll give you that with Lawnscapes of America. Go Eagles. That's for Neil, my buddy Neil in Memphis. Again, thanks for everything you do. My mom's best neighborhood coach. I appreciate that, Bert. Push it. Keep pushing that yard as hard as you can. If y'all have any questions, feel free to leave them in the live chat, and I will answer them as they go along. For those of you that are new here, typically I try and talk for an hour, which can be a long period of time, and sometimes you will have to bear with me because my daughter is daughter's in the back making all kinds of noises. Rob, how much ammonium sulfate per 1,000 going forward? Rob, I'm going to be running between 3/4 and a full pound of ammonium sulfate. My soil temperatures are still in the 55-degree range, at least for this next week. And then we're actually going to increase a little bit next week. And so anyway, I'm gonna be running about 3/4 pound to a full pound of nitrogen coming from ammonium sulfate. Again, I'll be applying that also with the RGS product. How soon after seed germination do you recommend spraying broadleaf weeds? Tony, let it go as long as you can. There's no real reason to get a jump on it. As long as it's able to be cut, usually it's mature enough to be sprayed. And I think the general rule of thumb is you cut it twice, you can spray it. Sometimes I have to jump in a little earlier than that if just a bizarre number of weeds are starting to surface. And test an area, make sure you understand the herbicide you're using, understand the potential for injury with the herbicide you're using. If you need something that's going to be a little more seed safe, maybe go with a product like Drive, quinclorac, and use a kicker like carfentrazone to help accelerate that burn down. Is there such a thing as a preventative insecticide? Gwar baby, what is your insect that you're concerned with? There are preventative insecticides, but again, it deals more so with what your target pest is. So let me know what you're having issues with. And I wish I'd have known that because I was riddled with crabgrass this reno. Yeah. And now here's the thing, Colonel Corn, you're dealing with Bermuda grass and crabgrass. Yeah, that's a tough one because Drive in particular is very hard on hybrid Bermuda. Drive and hybrid Bermuda do not get along. And my fear would be with a hybrid Bermuda that as it's attempting to come up and establish and you hit it with a product like Drive, is that it's going to damage it too much for it to be able to recover because it doesn't have the root system to go to the carbohydrates to generate the tissue to repair it. Speed Zone for the win. Speed Zone is good stuff. It is good stuff. I'd rather roll my own Speed Zone. It's just so expensive, and so usually I roll my own with most things I spray. Bill bugs, chinch bugs, mostly in my area, trying to prevent. Gwar baby, I would go with a product like a Celiprin in April or May. I cannot tell you the rate to run. I believe it is 6 ounces to the acre, but do not quote me on that. Consult your label. But a Celiprin is the product you want to use for prevention of that. I don't know if chinch bugs are on the label for a Celiprin, but I believe bill bugs are. Again, consult the label, but I think those are both preventable using a Celiprin. Scott Anderson, the soil temperatures where I am right now are probably mid-50s, although right now at this very moment it's definitely sub-50. If you give me just a second, I'll tell you exactly where we are soil temperature wise. Kind of the interesting thing is that we've got cool weather this week, coolish weather. It's going to be, 65, 45 highs and lows. And then moving into next week, it's going to get back up to the low 70s. So right now we're in that time of year where, it's not going to be able to make up its mind where exactly it wants to be. As of right now, soil temperatures are going to be between 45 and 50 degrees. So we're on the cooler side of things. But like I said, I think we're gonna jump back up there here in a little bit, at least next week. My test spot of dry herbicide destroyed my Yukon spot test. Tell you, that's what I'm talking about. Some hybrid Bermudas are just a little bit funny acting with quinclorac. I mean, it will smoke it down to the ground. It is really hard to say. Look at this. The Green Doctor out of Hawaii. I hate to be a fanboy, but I'm going to be a fanboy. If you look at Ray3472 in the chat, he has a company in Hawaii, and one of the whole reasons that prior to my as far as my history in turf and stuff, when I really wanted to take my game to the next level, outside of what I already knew, I started reading the things that the Green Doctor was putting out, and I became obsessed with everything he did. And just recently, I saw him, and I hope he and I can have a one-on-one conversation, because this is the guy when it comes to weed control, especially in warm season grasses, who takes the science to a whole new level. I've seen him do and give presentations with different herbicides, and what really piques my interest about what he does with it is that he goes out of the norm. It's still within the label limits of the products, but it's outside of its typical use pattern, and that's what's so fascinating about it. And anyway, I'm super glad to see him in the chat. Have you heard of lawn porn products? No, I have never heard of that. I have no idea what that is. I'm gonna have to Google that real quick. Specially formulated nitrogen and iron fertilizer to give not only the best plant health, but a deep green that'll make you the envy of many. If you want to send me a label on it, I'll take a look at it, let you know what I think of it. What part of the country are you in? And send me what part of the country you're in, and I'll give you the best opinion about it that I possibly could. I don't know a whole lot about it, so if you could shoot me an email with a label, I'd be interested in taking a further look at it. How many apps of ammonium sulfate will you typically put down between now and spring, or now and when you switch back to urea? I'll put down one more for the winter. My last application is, some lawns are going to be getting ammonium sulfate. Some are going to be getting calcium applications. Some are going to be getting ammonium sulfate and calcium, depending on soil pH and stuff. So it's hard to say, because right now is when I'm going to do all the corrective work off of what my soil tests are showing. So it's hard to say, but usually in winter, I'm only doing one application of ammonium sulfate. And then as it rolls into next year, January, February time frame, whenever the snow is clearly off the table, I'll do another application of ammonium sulfate. And then as soil temperatures begin to spike up to 55 degrees, I'll switch to urea as my end source. Alfred said, why do you prefer ammonium sulfate to ammonium phosphate? Because my soils are very, very, very high in phosphorus. And so there's no reason for me to be putting down ammonium phosphate. And as far as a nitrogen source, ammonium phosphate is just not going to have the same punch that ammonium sulfate will. So if I was deficient in phosphorus, I would use more phosphorus, but my soil tests are off the charts with phosphorus. Yeah, I bet maybe only 4 out of the hundreds of soil tests I've pulled have had a phosphorus deficiency. So no real reason for me to use it, and especially justify the cost. It's not going to be cheap either. Let's see here. How often do you do a soil test? Usually once a year, maybe once every other year. It depends on the issues I'm having with the yard, or if I'm having any issues at all. And the only reason I would test year over year is to see what kind of response I'm getting from the products I use. It helps me learn more about the product, chart the data, and hopefully be able to deliver a better product to my customers. So, you have to use a soil test for what it is. Yeah, it gives you instant feedback, but it also sets a baseline to kind of chart your progress and chart product response moving forward. So, anyway, yeah, there's my soil test kick. And without a soil test, it's just you're just shooting in the dark. And sometimes that's understandable, depending on the situation, the customer. Sometimes that initial stance has to be a shot in the dark, but for the most part, I prefer to take a soil test and establish a baseline for where I'm at. Can you give me the lowdown on organic foliar fertilizers? They are water soluble, correct? If so, aren't organics typically insoluble, meaning they have to be broken down to feed the plant? Yeah, John B. Hang on just a moment. Okay, so organic foliar fertilizers, I send my soil test out to be tested. I do not test my own soils. Organic foliar fertilizers, I'd be curious to see where the nutrients are derived from. You have to be careful when you hear organic foliar fertilizer. Typically.
Can I have a bowl, please?
A what?
Can I have a bowl for this?
A bowl? You don't have to ask Mom, son. Okay, so you'll see like fish and seaweed. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll take like a like seaweed, and then they'll increase the amount of nitrogen in it with like a little bit of urea, and they'll kind of call it organic or something. There's not a lot of soluble in sources that are available organically. Some are going to be derived from soy. That was one of the ones I saw at the Green Industry Expo. Branch Creek Organics is coming out with a soluble organic fertilizer that is actually derived from soy or corn. And it has like a crazy high analysis, it's like a 1200 or something. But typically it's going to be derived from fish and seaweed and something like that. And so that's where, it's going to be soluble because it's going to be extracted in a liquid form. Typically, if you see like, I don't know, I guess you could try and attempt to desludge like biosolids or something. I don't know. If it's going to be usually a liquid organic fertilizer, it's going to be derived from fish or seaweed. That's going to be my best answer. How are you introduced to folic acid and RGS? Okay, so the RGS product came from, I'm in this Facebook group called Professional Lawn Care Applicators. And it is, for anybody out there that is a professional lawn care applicator, I suggest you join. Great group of guys. We pass all kinds of incredibly valuable information back and forth between each other regarding the business side of things, and the actual technical side of things. I, of course, love the technical side of things. I'm a terrible business person. So anyway, that was where I was introduced to John Perry, and it was kind of interesting because my whole mission was to set out and disprove John Perry. He was too nice to me, and it aggravated me, and I wanted to argue with him, and he didn't want to argue with me. He just wanted to have a conversation, and I wasn't on board with that at the time. And so I can't tell you how many hours of conversation John Perry and I have had. In fact, it was so strong and so intense on the front end that he called a conference call, basically a roundtable for all of us in the lawn care applicator group to be able to shout questions at him, and then he field the questions and answer them. And he did, and I was extremely aggressive. And I mean, just the amount of knowledge he has, and you know, he has the ability to scientifically back up what he says, and that is what I'm still of the opinion. Some of it is theory based. You know, your rate per year of a humic or of a humic substance. There's no real scientific data showing where that needs to be. So in that essence, he's operating on a principle, in a theory. However, when we're dealing with you know, humic acid and carbon content and its ability to extend the release of nitrogen, that's scientifically proven. So anyway, I set out to disprove him, and I could not do it. And so I said, forget it. I'll befriend him. And it took a little convincing on my end that I promised that I wasn't always going to attack him personally before he accepted. No, I'm just kidding. John Perry has always been incredibly nice to me, always open to answer questions and stuff. So anyway, that was my introduction to humic acid. You have to remember, I come from the NPK world, so everything I've learned from the organic sphere of turf management, I've only just recently learned. It's all new to me, and so my approach towards fertility is ever evolving, and especially, you know, having that understanding of trying to grow fescue here in Tennessee, where we are, where it's too hot to grow fescue. You know, back to that organic principle of right plant, right place. Well, I'm trying to grow the wrong plant in the wrong place. And so, you know, how do you maximize the potential of that plant in an area where it's not supposed to have maximum potential? And so that was kind of my whole introduction into organics and bridge products in general. And so since then, I've been on a quest to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can. And, you know, it's the wonderful thing about this industry is that it is always evolving, and every day I wake up, I learn something new. And I think that's why I decided to make a career out of it, because it always keeps my mind working. Any word on Butch Jones? Is he gone yet? No, Jason Cox. Butch Jones is not gone yet. And you should hear local radio. People are going bananas. C.D. Andrews, RGS is available to homeowners. You can go to Greene County Fertilizer, Green with the E on the end of it, greenecountyfertilizer.com, and call them, and Mark Long or John Perry or Mike McDonald or Brad Huff will take care of you. I've had disappointing results from organic foliars. Recently sodded zoysia, failed to induce tack down and rooting. Ended up having to apply my standard 20-20-20 soluble with Xteris. Ray, why do you think you could not get the tack down using your organic foliar? Do you think it just did not have a high enough nutrient content? I'm curious. If it's not tacking down, that's where I wonder where the issue is. Was there a phosphorus source in the organic fertilizer you were using, and were the soils phosphorus deficient at all? I don't know why it wouldn't tack down. Have you heard of Chip Osborne? He preaches 100% organic and biologic fertilizer and pesticides in his program. Just wondered if you ever had a client that wanted 100% organic. If so, could you meet their expectations? John, no, I've never had a customer want 100% organic. I've never heard of Chip Osborne. Could I meet someone's expectations if they wanted 100% organic? No. I mean, that's the fact of it. Again, the very first principle in organic farming is right plant, right place. Where I am in the Southeast, Fescue is the wrong plant for here. So on that principle alone, I'm not going to be able to deliver the results that are expected using an organic program. It's just not going to work. So there's a lot of people around here that there's not a lot. There's one person around here that says they have an organic program, but the backbone of their organic program is prodiamine and spraying 4600 urea. So, and then they supplement with biosolids during the summer. So not exactly an organic program. So if you're going to do a calcium application that has to raise soil pH, soluble lime, do you use dolomite? No, yes. The whole reason I'm doing a calcium application is to raise soil pH. Also, my soils are, more often than not, they're deficient in calcium. And no, I do not use dolomitic lime. Again, that pertains to my area. Because it all comes down to the amount of magnesium you have in your soil. And typically my soils are really high in magnesium too. So for me, it's more advantageous to use a calcitic lime versus a dolomitic lime. Let's see here. What did Ray say? Not enough NPK, even with some P in the organic. Soils here need high P. Ray, do you have sandy soils where you are? I'm curious. I couldn't imagine in Hawaii you've got soils that are built off the remnants of volcanic material. So I'm curious what your composition is like. Even with southern turf in an ideal situation such as Bermuda in full sun in correct zone, John B, Bermuda would be a tough one. I don't know. I still don't think I could deliver the results that. And again, I'm speaking from the mindset that I know how I market myself as a business. I would have to change the way I market myself to sell a true 100% organic program. Coming to terms with the number of weeds in the yard would have to be a given. You know, a relatively basically the number of weeds would just have to be a factor. It would just have to be. So I honestly don't think I could do it. The only thing I would feel comfortable with is if would be zoysia grass. I think doing a zoysia lawn in my area with a true organic program would be successful. I wouldn't even use corn gluten. I would just use biosolids on it, really, and that would be my organic program. So I wouldn't even get fancy with it. Just biosolids 3-4 times a year. Call it good. Ray's got high clay. Everything is locked up. Even granules have limited efficacy. As you know, I'm 100% liquid. Yeah, I know. With your gas powered backpack, Ray, I still can't believe that. That is pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome. Ray, what are your steps to unlock soil-bound nutrients? I'm curious your input on this. Tony Tillman, couldn't you use calcium nitrate for the lawns that are calcium deficient, 2 for 1? Yes, Tony, I could. That is definitely a great option. John B. Ray actually has the most interesting setup in the entire world. He has a backpack that he has attached a pressure regulator to, and he's got a homemade walking boom on the end of it. And so it's like a wand that feeds a boom, and he mixes per each yard in the gas powered backpack. I can't remember the brand he uses. I want to say it's Shindawa, but it's the most unbelievable thing you have ever seen, and you know, and that's why he's the Green Doctor. That's why he is the Green Doctor. What's your views on PPE when spraying? Trimec, it's a must, especially if you're going to be spraying something that is, you know, think about it. If you're spraying out of a hose and a reel, you know, the old True Green Chemlon style gun, and you know, 100 gallons of material, or 300 gallons, 500, 700 gallons of material you're spraying in a day. No matter how careful you are with chaps and everything on, I mean, you still end up getting material on you by the end of the day. I mean, you smell disgusting when you walk in the door, and everybody around you can smell it whether you do or not. So yeah, I mean, PPE is a necessity. I get lax with it when I'm on my machine, because it is, you know, I'm on my machine. I actually have 2 levels of blocking between me and the front of the machine. I've got the machine that actually blocks for me. I've got a flood jet that sprays out in front of me, not up. And so I feel relatively protected. I have never felt, I usually don't stink of herbicide at the end of the day when I come home. And so I feel a little more protective using the machine. That was one of my big pushes for hurrying up and getting off the lawn and using a machine. pH correction. Many soils here are extremely alkaline. pH 7.5, sulfuric acid at 1 to 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet. Wow, sulfur will take too long. Too much free carbonates. Wow. Sulfuric acid at 1 to 2 gallons per 1,000 square feet. That is incredible. That is incredible. I'm lucky that I usually don't have to deal with alkaline soils. More in Middle Tennessee, they deal with it. And by alkaline, I'm saying a 7.4. Maybe, you know, 7.5 is going to be on the high side of things. So luckily, I don't have to deal with that. Most of mine are going to be between about a 7.2 to a 5.8. I've gotten a couple of soil tests back where it's been as low as like a 4.9, but not often. Not often. Right, when you're applying that rate of sulfuric acid, what is your output volume? That was my reaction, John B. This is what I'm talking about. The Green Doctor of Hawaii, again, it's one of those things, it makes perfect sense. Sulfur takes too long. And so he's going to use sulfuric acid. He's using 95% applied in plenty of water. It makes sense. It's just outside of how it would typically be used in a turf situation. The science is there. It's just not typical. And that's why it is so fascinating to see what he does with properties. I mean, that is just, who would think to do that? I mean, how many people is like at least 100 gallons per gallon of acid? Wow. Wow. Talk about a soul drench. That is some serious stuff. That is a serious soul drench. But when you're talking about doing a true correction, That's how to do a true correction. Could you imagine how long that would take trying to do it with sulfur? It would just take forever, if at all, even if it could be done. Even if it could be done. Here, buddy, get something to drink. I'm going to take a quick moment again to plug a couple things. If you haven't done it, watch my wife's hip-hop video. Also, got the video with John Perry coming up, Anuvia. Ray, I'm curious, have you heard of a product being released? It's being distributed by Harrells. It is called Anuvia. It is a homogeneous product where they take waste sludge. Yep. They take sludge and run it in a reactor and treat it with sulfur to clean it. And then they spray it with iron to help it prill. And so you're left with this homogeneous product. Oh, and they inject it with anhydrous ammonia. So your final analysis is a 16-1-2 with 2% iron, and it's a homogeneous product. So pretty interesting thing there. That's going to be coming up. Actually, I talked with the people that are the higher ups over there at Anuvia, and one of my big concerns was how long they were going to be in business. And apparently they've got an incredible business model, so they will be in business for a long time. So that's an exciting thing. I like where that direction that's going. That's some not exactly inventing new technology, but that's excellent use of the technology we already have to create and build an even better product. Yeah, and it's interesting when their sewage treatment plants, when they have to discard that waste, they have to track where that waste goes for a very long period of time. And so their waste is always a part of what they do, and accounting for how they get rid of it is a part of what they always do. And so by being able to get rid of it with a product like Anuvia, then it's an easy out for them to sell their waste to Anuvia, let them turn it into something that is no longer waste, and then they no longer have to follow that waste stream to find out how it goes. So that's less responsibility on them. Kind of the interesting thing, Ray, about this product, it does not have a very strong odor. It's treated to minimize the amount of dust. And it has more of a traditional ammoniacal smell than a biosolid smell, probably from the anhydrous that's injected into it before they prill it. So it's a pretty neat product. Pretty neat product. I like the fact that they're reaching into their pocket and coming out with a new solution. To what we're running into, so we've got products like Screaming Green that are out. They're going to be, 5 nutrient sources. However, what they have managed to do is actually turn that into a homogeneous product, which is fantastic. And interestingly, the people who have Screaming Green now, before Screaming Green, they actually produced a homogeneous product that was the Harmony line of fertilizers. And so they basically dehomogenized that product and product. Am I still broadcasting or did I hang up? There we go. All right, y'all, I reckon that is going to get it for me. I'm about 48 minutes in. I got to get the kids to bed and stuff. So, again, I want to thank everybody, each and everyone, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Please comment on the videos and let me know, especially if you've got ideas for topics. I'd love to jump into them. I want to do more I want to do more whiteboard videos. The whiteboard videos I really enjoy. I seem to get good feedback from y'all too. So if you have any topics for whiteboard videos, don't hesitate to email me, thegrassfactor@gmail.com. Ray, the Green Doctor, I beg you, please, would you send me an email at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. C.D. Andrews, Dodgers or Astros? Man, I got to go Dodgers. Got to go Dodgers. Got to go Dodgers. I appreciate it, Jason. I appreciate all of y'all. Again, video with John Perry coming up. Show my wife some love. Check out her video. Comment on her videos. Tell her she did awesome. I know she put a ton of hard work into that. And so anyway, show her some love. Again, also John Perry coming up. Jacob Goddard with Scooter's Lawn Care coming up. I got all kinds of things in the works. So anyway, y'all, I really appreciate you tuning in. As always, have a great night. Hope I see you again soon. Take it easy.